We have minutes?
Yeah, there's one set, this one.
Okay, here they are, you got them, okay.
This one I
So
just
the
printed,
11:10.
but it's still a little bit ugly.
Does everybody have those, or did I get all of them? Here you go.
I mean, we can do these ones, they need a little bit of reformatting, but
Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Littleton Board of Health, December 15th, 2015. So,
One goes to Gino, and that goes back to Brad.
all right. Are there any board member reports?
There are a couple of board issues.
Okay, Ann, go ahead.
Okay, so a couple of MRC issues to take care of. The first one is that the MRC has voted itself to reorganize. Instead of having a general committee that doesn't have specific titles or specific roles, they opted to title each person, and they have a specific role attached to that title, which means that the chair, which is appointed by the Board of Health, would stay appointed by the Board of Health, but the fire chief and the chair of the MRC would like to appoint the rest of the committee pending tasks and talent. And since we're not that involved with the people that are doing these things, they would like to appoint them. The document that I passed on to Shelley, which I think I'd asked to be passed on to everybody, but not sure it's really needed, is right here, if you'd like to take a look. And Shelley has it electronically if you'd like to take a look. And we need to just vote for this change.
Okay, is there any discussion? Personally, I'm comfortable with that. I don't know the players. I assume the chair and the fire chief know the duties and the tasks and the players better than we do, so I'd support this.
Yeah, I'm familiar with both of those roles and the people, and I think it's a better
Who
idea.
is the chair?
It's Alex.
Okay.
Yeah. So can I
Well,
make a
that changes
motion?
everything then.
So can I make a motion to adopt the organizational model presented tonight?
Which would allow the
Yes.
fire chief and the chair to appoint.
Yes,
Diversity.
and for the different positions to be specified as opposed to just a general committee. So I make that motion?
Second. Second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Great. The second
It's all on
thing,
you guys now. We have no responsibility.
okay, so the second thing is that our FEP grant, which goes right to our emergency preparedness in town, and isn't really related to town money, but we get it directly to the MRC, needs to be spent by February. And the needs in the group are really for multi-weather apparel, needs to identify people when they're out in the snow, out helping with the fire, out working with the police, out with doing the different things that need to be done, to get some identifying emergency preparedness apparel, whatever that would be, a shell or a vest or a whatever. And that's really the need at this time. We have so much stuff in our trailer, we need another trailer, but that's another issue.
Okay. How much money is left?
We have about 4,700.
Okay. I typically hate spending money just because it's the end of the fiscal year, but if there's a legitimate need, I guess I'd look to you guys on this, so.
Yeah, there's a definite need.
Yeah, I wouldn't say let's just spend money to spend. I think there's between 30 and 40 volunteers for this now, as we're reforming with the CERT component to the MRC. There's a little bit more opportunity for some public interaction.
Okay.
And I think, especially during inclement weather, different storms or, whatnot, I think if we have the ability to, for the amount of time that volunteers put into this, at least get them some type of either heavy rain, water repellent sweatshirt or light windbreaker type jacket or something to that effect.
Something reflective that identifies who they are.
Exactly, that's labeled appropriately. It's going to be, a little more comfortable for them to be out in whatever situation, and something that's going to clearly identify them. And it's going to, we're going to kind of give them back a little something.
Yeah, they're volunteers, right.
Volunteering their time.
Yeah, and these are about $100, 50 to 100 each. It depends, and then you have to put the emergency preparedness thing on it. It's a little bit pricier than just going out and getting a rain jacket. But I think it's really important because especially as...
They'll draw all those volunteers who want to be fashionable, right?
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but
They gotta keep up with the program.
But I think it's important for them to be properly identified, because right now, we don't have anything, and something would be important, especially if we're out in inclement weather.
Does that have to be certified? by the fire department or anything? Anything you buy is what I'm getting at, from a liability standpoint?
No, because they're not gonna be involved with, like, firefighting techniques or emergency services to that extreme. It's just gonna be something that's gonna hopefully keep them a little bit warm and a little bit dry, but more of an identifier.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of the reflective,
Um,
does it have to meet a certain standard
That would
plus
be like an
identification?
It's called, it's an ANSI standard,
Yeah.
so that's mostly for highway interaction, and
You don't want your volunteers on the
I
highway.
don't want them out on the highway.
Right.
There's should never be a need for that. If there is, we get bigger issues. But, so hopefully it could just be something, something that's at least bright, identifiable, something to that effect. We started looking at different options and different items. We're gonna go out and submit a couple of requests to a few of the uniform companies to see if we can get the best price. There may be a few options, but no, we're not required to have anything that's ANSI certified.
Any further discussion? Motion?
Can I make a motion that we use the FET money for identifying apparel for the MRC insert?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have, from Region 4A, I have a few houses we can get some, some quotes.
Good. Awesome. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Fastest
And anything else for board member reports?
Not for me.
Bill?
Nope.
John?
The only question I had was about the tobacco regulations. So we've completely.
So I talked to
tabled it.
Shelley. I actually have time over Christmas break, and I'll have to go to work. She's going to get me a copy, and I'll amend them because the Attorney General came out with e-cigarette regulations, which are as good or better than ours, in my opinion, in Jim's. And actually, the woman who is from whatever that regional tobacco,
The Tobacco Alliance.
she kind of screwed them up. So I'm going to fix them
Okay.
and bring them back to you guys for approval, and then we'll put them out to hearing again. So, Bill?
There was one thing that I neglected to mention. Several meetings ago, a motion was made and it was passed to have a letter sent to the mortgage holder of 1215 Taylor Street in regards to having a fence put around the property. Has that ever happened? Did the letter ever go out?
I don't think it happened because at the same time frame, we were going through the Attorney General's office for all that, so I
Right.
think
So in
we're.
In the interim, I'll give an update on that, and that might lead to further discussion of whether we want to continue with the fence around that. So there's the Attorney General's Abandoned Property Initiative, I think is what it's called. So we met with the Attorney General. Jim and I went out there with her. We subsequently did a site visit, and so Jim could update and prepare an affidavit for court. You were on that with me and Jim. And what she has done is she's taken Jim's affidavit, which he finalized this week. It's gone to the court. And I get an email from Tom Harrington today and the AG, Assistant AG, which basically says they are in the process of identifying somebody to take it into receivership.
Oh, that's great.
So it's moving forward. It's by no
That's
means
great.
there. In the interim, there was an attorney who was contacted by the mortgage holder who did contact the Attorney General and wanted to know what was going on, and Tom Harrington worked with the Attorney General to update them. They were given the opportunity at that time to present a timeline during which they could bring the building up to code and avoid all of this. They failed to do so, so we're moving forward with that. So I guess the question, Bill, is we were going to put a fence around it. It seems to be another process. Do we want to hold that? Is the suggestion we continue with the fence, or where do we stand with this, I guess? Because I think we had two things going on, and it's not clear how they should mesh, so I think that maybe warrants further discussion. I don't know if we need an agenda for that, or we can do that under other business.
Just given the history of it, it would be better if it were at
Okay,
least
so let's
listed.
put that on the agenda for the first meeting after the holidays, and we'll come to some conclusion on whether we want to pursue that particular.
It seems to me like the whole situation is being approached from two different tacks, and one doesn't have anything to do with the other one, and I'm just curious as to why writing a letter to the mortgage holder asking that a fence be put around the property has anything to do with what's going on with the Attorney General. Did the Attorney General suggest?
I don't think we've had that
Not to
discussion with
do
the
that?
Attorney General. I think that needs to take place in order to determine how to move forward. But again, this has been a fairly controversial issue. There are a lot of interested parties. I think it's been 30 years. I think we can wait till the next meeting but I think you're right. We do need to address that and figure out whether we need to hold back on one, whether the two are in conflict, or whether we need to, we can continue with both. But it's a good point. Thank you. I'd forgotten about that myself. So, John?
Nope.
No.
One more thing. So I heard through something completely unrelated a couple days ago that there's that recreational use marijuana is going to be
That's going to be on the ballot initiative November of next year.
right. So
They're in the process, there's 3 steps in getting a ballot initiative. The first one, you get the initial signatures. They're in the process of getting, I forget how many, but there's thousands of signatures they need to get. There's some dueling forces at play. There are 2 groups that basically support this. One is looking for a large business to take this over, another is looking for it to be more available to small entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. It remains to be seen, just from working in the State House a lot, whether they're going to get their act together or whether they're going to undermine each other.
Okay.
But it's a very good shot that legalization of recreational marijuana will be on the ballot initiative in 2016. Even if that does happen, there's going to be some regulations that will have to take place at the state level, as we saw with medical marijuana. That can take a couple of years at least. So I
okay.
think we've got some time.
Yeah. So it's cart before.
Not in time for the holidays, sorry.
There went your
Quick
Christmas
question.
card.
Yes.
Quick question. What is the name of the housing program with the Attorney General that allows us to go under receivership? There's a certain name for it.
Abandoned Building Initiative.
Thank you. Abandoned ability. Okay, yeah.
Okay. I have no particular reports. I do just want to remind folks that we're doing the odor reporting on the Halloran property. That's, if we could leave residents off that, it's important. I know sometimes it's hard, you just hit reply all, but please take the residents off for a number of reasons. Most importantly, we want to invite discussion, which could be a violation of the open meeting law. Plus, I think having blind reporting keeps everybody kind of more objective.
Yeah, as soon as I hit the button, I
It's-
realized I made a mistake.
It wasn't a
So-
criticism,
so-
it's a reminder. I
Okay,
actually had to
okay.
go back and take them off a couple times just before I hit the button, so
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
see how it happens.
And I have been, as they've been coming in, just responding, received.
Right.
Just received.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
soon as I hit mine, I knew. I thought,
So
oh,
Shelley,
okay.
we had a couple people say, I never heard back, and so Shelley or I have contacted them and say, yes, there's a reason, don't worry. So
Great.
we've had at least one, usually 2 or more people go out on every report, so.
And is there a time in the future where there'll be a further discussion? Someone asked that in an email, and there wasn't, again, we didn't have that discussion via email, but
Absolutely. I mean, there's 2 things I think can trigger that. One can be if we get a whole rash of very bad complaints, or anybody on this board believes there's a whole rash of very bad complaints. But I mean, composting is basically a cycle. They've been bringing the leaves in for the last month. As it goes through the degradation process in compost, you would expect if there's going to be odors, different degrees of odors at different point. Once we get it partially way through that, or all the way through that, we'll have a better idea what the overall scenario is and the impact on neighbors. But if it gets particularly bad, or people see a need in the interim, any board member can bring it up at any point for discussion. Just give Shelley a heads up, and we'll put it on the agenda. Personally, I would like to see, we've seen some odors, not to be unexpected. I think we need to see what happens as this degrades, because that's when you're going to get the odors.
I would
You're gonna see
imagine in the spring.
different weather, all that kind of stuff. So I think snow had something to do with it last year. We don't know, but I think we need to look at that process to really evaluate it. Any other reports? We have some minutes here from the November 10th, 2015 meeting. If you want to go through them for a couple minutes, let me know when you're ready. Just for folks in the audience, we've had a number of people request to continue it. So if you're here for Lot 13 of Chestnut Lane, you're here for 3 Evergreen Road, or you're here for parcels 123 and 124 on Oak Road, those won't be heard tonight. Shelley's gone, who's good at forging Gino's signature?
I can do that.
Christmas card, you can't do that.
Give me something to give him a hard time about.
I just see a typo, that's all. I don't see anything. They look fake.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is on the, when it talks about the AG's, the Abandoned Property Initiative, receiver doesn't take over the property, they basically take receivership and bring it up to code. Minor change.
Okay. What was the typo in?
It's Markey, Jonathan Markey of Markey and Rubin in Acton, not Markey and Run. Unless he's changed partners.
Might have.
Oh, no.
Spell checks are harsh, mistress.
I don't think I spell checked. I'm not giving it these ones till next time.
Yeah, you got it right down where
I think it was
the
just a spell
emotion.
check thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just at the top of the hearing, 144 Gillespie. Okay.
Brad, what was your point about the Attorney General's office? They
Only that they don't actually, the receiver doesn't take over the property. They take receivership, bring it up to code, at which point the owner, we don't have to get into the details, but I think taking over the property maybe mischaracterizes what happens.
Yeah, they get receivership.
I just have a question. Where does the money come from to fund bringing it up to code?
So the receiver, whoever's assigned receiver, it's usually a developer, will bear the cost of bringing it up to code with a guarantee that in order for the lien to be taken off it, the owner of the property will have to pay them plus a modest percentage over that for profit. If the owner of the property or the bank is not able or not willing to do that, then it gets put on the auction block, and that receiver is the first one in line to get any proceeds. So where this worked particularly well is in the downturn of the building industry. A lot of contractors who didn't have a lot of work, they made some money off this, not as much as they do doing spec houses or something, but they kept all their people working. But apparently there's a fairly long list of people willing to do this. So
I think it's a good program.
we'll find out. So.
It's worked well in Framingham and other.
Yeah, there's dozens of properties it's worked on, but
I can see, for us at least.
very often I think too, it scares the banker where the owner has the capacity and to better do it myself, so. Okay, any other comments or questions on the minutes?
Nope.
You have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Minutes for 11/10/15.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any correspondence, Shelley?
We can go over this after, if you want, the
Okay.
second revised septic survey.
Okay.
No real correspondence. The community septic program, I'm just waiting to get everything turned in so they can get their certificate of compliances, but what I did was I submitted all the invoices to get processed, because it all has to be paid out by the end of December. And so I just, every couple days, continue to email everybody to get their stuff in.
Okay,
So
great.
that'll be all done at the end of December.
Great.
That's pretty much it.
All right. What's going on 676 Great Road? We got a complaint?
Mr. Sanderson.
Mr. Sanson, you'd like to fill us in, or please come up?
I'll stay right there, the chair I can talk, but there's some pictures that I've taken of additional there. I spoke with the landlord with regards to it. Before, it was a lot worse because there was raccoons, possums, rats, or whatever had gone into the bags and tore the bags out. Now, this is a commercial first floor there, and he's the one that has these containers. And my concern was on the commercial, is he supposed to have a container dumpster there to put stuff in. There's 2 tenants in that building also, one on the second floor, one on the back there. As you look to the left of the bicycle, that barrel there, I think that's by the step, that belongs to the second floor up there.
The 2 tenants are residential or commercial?
Residential, and there's a third there, which is the commercial. He had piece of boxes, everything. That paper was all strode over the area that you have there now previously, and the paper had blown over into my yard there. I taken the paper and threw it back over. I called the landlord and told him about it. He came down and taken pictures of the condition there 2 or 3 times. So he said, well, he was going to get on and have them take care. The barrels just sit there. It's been moved now and dumped. The barrels had the tops off of. The stuff was just bags, this big bags, that plastic bags. It's sort of kind of like, I guess it's mental health like clinic or whatever there that they do. They have people, clients coming there all the time.
So there are 2 residents and 1 business, and that's some sort of a counseling service?
Yeah, I think it's a counseling service, and of course they come in with the piece of boxes and so forth and stuff. So they throw stuff out there. I've seen a fox go across my yard from over on that area there. I've seen what appeared to be a bobcat that also been by there, and I know that the skunks and the mouse, they they get in there, raccoon, all that is wild area across the street there where the town on the land, where the water area, and they come up out of that area and cross over into that and all that wetland that we have in the back, it's all open back through there. So I try to be nice. I mean, I don't bother nobody. You take care of your yard, I take care of my yard. I mean, I police up. I got a 190-foot front, and I police up everything. Night I just picked my trash and picked up tomorrow. Picked up beer can. People just come by and they just sling and throw the stuff out. Well, it's fine. He take care of what's over there. Doesn't bother me. But when I walk out my door, I spoke to Charlie, who's the owner there, and I said, well, this is the stuff that you have to be concerned about, the wildlife getting into this stuff. And I says, especially in the wintertime, they're going to be digging, smelling, whatever. And I says, now that, it's a nuisance to me that I walk out the door and see. He said, well, it depends on what you call it as a nuisance. Well, the owner has a car that's renting the first floor there, this business in there. He has a car that's very close. I don't know where I have a picture of it, not on here. To the right, I have a picture of it. No, I don't have the picture of it. But anyway, it's to the right. It's unregistered. So you can't sort of kind of see it from the roadway, when you go by. I mean, this is the entry coming into Littleton. And with that out there, he had other stuff that was piled up on that corner right there, as you see.
Is this next to the Agway across from the water?
No, this is right across from the car dealership there.
Yeah,
It's right down Hartwell.
Right?
Right down
Yeah,
Hartwell.
that's that
Oh,
house
okay.
on Hartwell or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's on the
Right
corner of Hartwell right
Yep.
there. And that bike is not a part of this. I think there was somebody that came there, rode a bike, and the bike just fell over. It just fell over when I took the picture because it wasn't there early. But this is something I've spoken to him twice, and I told the owner, Charlie, I said, listen, I'm going to go to the health board. It says, you don't want to make this guy clean this stuff up, police it up. I said, I shouldn't have to call you. He said, well, you go over there and tell. I said, no. You are the landlord. I'm calling and telling you, and that is your job to do. I said, I was a landlord before too, so I know the responsibility here. I didn't get into about the resident, how they trash bin handle, whatever, but I think that one barrel is from the second floor.
So how long has this been going on, Mr. Sanderson?
Almost since the guy been there. He's been in there about, hell knows, Sean, he's probably been in there 7 months maybe.
Okay, so this has been an ongoing issue.
It's been an ongoing issue.
Well, I think it's certainly reasonable to expect that the trash not be blowing over the place, to be taken out periodically and be contained. And I'm not familiar with the building code specifically around dumpsters, but I do believe it has to be contained and taken away reasonably.
I am familiar with the housing code. Section 601 and 602 clearly state that garbage has to be contained with a lid in a vermin-proof
Okay.
container, and that the landlord is responsible to see to it that it is contained.
So it's not necessarily a dumpster, but it does need to be
Yeah.
contained. Does it
No,
speak
no.
about the frequency of which it has to be picked up?
No, that's town dependent, but the business is a different issue, but the business also has to contain its garbage, but it can have a
Well,
dumpster to
that's
do
all,
that.
that there, that you see right there, that's all belong to the business there on the
Right.
first floor there.
Well, it looks like it's probably mixed, and it's probably hard to tell apart. What I'm
No,
going to
no, no,
suggest...
This is all the first floor. These bags and stuff, he brings them out there, the black bags,
Right.
and throw them up there. The only
Yeah, you
barrel
can't
that
do
you
that.
have
Yeah,
here.
the bag's insufficient. They at least need to be in a lid
Only thing we
canvas.
have here is this barrel over here, which is next to the stair. That, I believe, is the second floor container there. But
Well,
all
that
this
looks
other
actually
stuff-
properly contained, so that seems to be less of an
Yeah.
issue. What I'm going to suggest, Mrs. Sanderson, we have a regional a Board of Health, and a Neshoba Board of Health, that's basically our health agent. So what I'm going to suggest is we send Jim Gareffi, of one of his staff out there, survey the situation, look at it, and we will send him a certified letter basically indicating this, and we will follow up on it. And can we also let Mr. Sanderson know when that goes out?
Yeah, we can CC him on the letter too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah.
Okay.
So you can know it's getting that way.
If he doesn't comply,
Because
we'll take, the action will continue and grow. Hopefully, he'll comply quickly, and nobody will have to deal with this, because your expectation is very reasonable, and it's consistent with what the requirements are.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's that.
Is that a mixed-use zone?
I don't know, I believe it is.
I believe you, because there's commercial over there, I think.
Yeah, there's commercial across the street.
There's
just
commercial
down-
on this,
Yeah.
commercial on this side, because there's been business.
It's like a
in there.
yarn shop there
I've
for
been
a
there since
while.
I've been there since '97. Never have I had
Yeah.
the business in there have a condition out there with the trash like that.
Well, I knew there was business in there previously. I didn't realize there were residents as well. That's why.
Yeah, resident on the second.
Yeah, I think
floor,
it's mixed use there,
On the back floor, yeah.
so, great. Thank you for bringing it to us, our attention, we'll do our
Thank
best
you.
to deal with it. Okay, next agenda, we have some discussion on Air Road and Fast Franks, 184 Air Road and Fast Franks. Come on up, gentlemen.
Sit up here.
You're the only ones here, you might as well come up to the table.
Good evening, Rob Ansel. I apologize for not being here for the last meeting. My dad was unexpectedly in the hospital, and I was kind of a wreck, so. As you are aware, this is, what we're proposing to do is build operate a hot dog stand. Similar to Ed's Weenies, the regulations mandate that if you're going to do one or two different things. You're either going to have a hot dog stand that is movable every day and that you connect to a full-time restaurant, or whether you
You had specific regulations you were looking for us to.
have it stay there. So what we've done, or what I did, is I created a handout, which is going to be our food
you got
plan.
one for everybody?
Yeah, I got one for
Oh, okay.
everybody. And we created a proposed menu, and we also, I have information relative to the sink that is existing in the trailer. We created a standard operating procedure.
Okay, before you get into that, so we can put this in context, you had specific regulatory requirements you were asking us to waive.
To waive, correct.
Can we go over those first, and then you can
Sure,
say how
we
you're
can.
going to address?
Are they illustrated in this? Sorry, Brad. Are they
It's okay.
illustrated in this?
My letter requests a waiver. What I got for information the
So
last,
I believe one of them, there were several there, one of them had to do with bringing the truck to a central location at night to be sanitized.
that's the main regulation that,
And I think what we told your colleague was, at least I told him, I'm not sure everybody else is open to it, I'd be open to that, so long as you could show us how you're going to meet the objectives that were in those requirements. So I think
And-
being able to sanitize it was the main thing.
And
It
that's
wasn't
what
even
I.
clear whether you had hot water at the site or anything
We
like
do,
that.
and we can go over all that. My clients, I should introduce them, both Littleton businessmen, Brian Carpenter and AJ Bergen. And they, AJ is in the, works with Triumph Leasing, and this property is adjacent to their location
Yep,
over by Sandville.
where Bruce Street comes up.
Yeah, and this is actually an aerial photo of the property, and that's actually the actual trailer that it is on location. And their thoughts were that they were going to take one of their existing trailers and convert the trailer. They met with Roland Bernier, and the original thoughts were, sure, you can go ahead and open it. They then built the trailer. They were approached by the Neshoba Board of Health and said, what are you guys doing? And we said, oh God, we didn't know that we were violating any rules or regulations. We thought we could do this as of right because we went through the building department. So we had a couple discussions with the Neshoba Board of Health, and they said, look, if you are going to be operating this, you're going to need a number of waivers. The regulations state that you need to, if you have a mobile food truck, which is what we have.
Is this on wheels?
It is on
Actually
wheels.
mobile.
Yes.
Okay.
That it has to be connected to a single point where the mobile food cart gets cleaned and sanitized on a nightly basis. Despite being on wheels, our goal is to leave it in a single location and not drive to, say, Neshoba Garage on a nightly basis to, or to have some kind of an affiliated restaurant. And the reason behind that is that it doesn't make sense to have either one of these guys or one of their employees drive it on an every night basis. We want to have a world-class food operation plan. We've done our best to come up with a plan and show it through our documents that I've presented.
So I think there were a couple other issues, unless you've dropped those besides the central location. I think if I recall the regulations correctly, they allow franks, but they don't necessarily allow things like soups and some of the other foodstuffs you were preparing to use. And some of which, the soups could be potentially hazardous food. I think there's also an issue, wasn't there, of storing the food in the trailer overnight?
Yes.
Versus, I believe the regulations call for that to be stored in a commercial kitchen
Yeah.
type situation.
And there's a number of others as well, when you get done.
But yeah, I'm asking you to tell us
That is
specifically
correct.
what
That is
you want.
correct.
So you're,
So what
I'm telling you, you should be telling me what you want, okay?
So,
I understand that. What I'm here to do is have a discussion, and what
I think it'll be a fuller discussion if you lay out beforehand what it is you're looking for a waiver on. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but it helps us put this in context as we go through it.
I'm a food service certified.
Right.
So what I want to just say is that the types of foods, if it's just hot dogs, if it's just already fairly well-preserved meats that you are just heating up and then storing at a proper temperature, that's one thing. But what the representative said last time was that there would be beef, there would be chicken, and other sorts of potentially hazardous foods. So that person may be speaking in error, I don't know, but...
Well, she didn't say much. I think it was in the actual application you put forward.
It's-
So, but what I would like to know
on the letter
specifically
it
is
did.
what waivers are you looking for? It was in the original letter. Do we
We're
have
in my
that?
original letter. Can you,
Yeah.
and I don't know why.
And there were different meats mentioned in that original letter, and then it's, in addition to that, it's during the day, it's the ability to sanitize properly, the utensils you're using, everything in the trailer that you're using to service, that you're using to store, everything has to be either cleaned at a certain pH, cleaned at a certain temperature.
Okay,
That's
so
what
you
it is.
had,
There's a whole-
it's specifically here, preparation of service of hot dogs, pulled beef, sausage,
Yeah, there's
and baked
other-
beans. I believe there's soups in there as well, which could be potentially problematic with the
Yeah.
food code and potentially hazardous food. from transporting the cart to a daily fixed location, and I believe when I looked at the regulations, that largely had to do with they being properly sanitized the truck. You had you wanted a permit to obtain water from the town of Littleton Public Water Supply. I think there was a hose involved, as was described. You had a variance allowing gray wastewater to be stored in a 250-gallon storage tank and taken away by a licensed hauler, and a variance relative to food being stored within the truck. So that's the context of what we're discussing.
Yes, I'm sorry, and I should have started with that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So that's what we are looking for. What I've tried to do with my handouts tonight is to show you graphically or through a presentation how we plan to address those.
Perfect.
If you want to start with number one on that letter, we can discuss that, and I can show you where in our handout that we've done that.
Okay, that's a good.
And for whatever reason, I don't have my letter, which I'm embarrassed.
Oh, here.
I have two.
You gave us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so what we've talked about is variance from 105 CMR 590.009B2 to allow the preparation of hot soups, pulled beef, sausage, hot dogs, and baked beans. Our initial menu that we have submitted to the Board of Health does not require all of those items. We are willing to open as a hot dog store. What we would do, to the extent that we were granted permission to have those other items, is that our soup was going to be bought in packages from Legal Seafoods, and they would be in our on-site freezer, taken out that day for use. If they're not used, they would be disposed of at.
So there'd be no overnight storage of foods?
No,
Okay.
it would be no.
If I recall the regulations correctly, they really only allow hot dogs and prepackaged food like chips and things like that, correct?
Exactly, and prepackaged could fit as long as it is frozen before and then heated up on site to the proper temperature. And that's the tricky part. It's got to be heated to the proper temperature before you serve it to the public,
Okay.
even if it's been frozen.
So that is what our intention is. What we had talked about in preparation for the meeting with my clients is said that really what we want to do is we want to open a hot dog stand. What we want to do is show you and show the Board of Health that we are going to be operating a super clean operation, and that if you're granted permission just for the hot dogs, then we do plan to go back to you with a plan to have.
Okay, so for
soup.
now, we're talking mainly about hot dogs. So the main issue right now is the central location, the water, and the gray water.
Correct.
And
And-
some food storage as well, so.
And do you already have properly sanitization process? You have the 3 sinks?
Yes.
And you have the right temperature, you have the right pH for
Yes.
everything, correct?
And
And
we're all
those 3
certified.
sinks
Yeah.
are,
They have
are-
HACCP outlined in the plan, so.
and they're actually installed and built in the existing unit.
Okay,
Yeah, we built it like a commercial kitchen,
Oh,
right down
great.
to the plumbing.
so for now, we can
Okay,
leave
great.
out the potentially hazardous food, and you'll come back, you're just doing the hot dogs and the prepackaged foods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I-
that simplifies
And-
things
and
quite a
that's-
bit, yeah.
That's true.
allowable.
I guess what we would want to know is at some point that we would be willing to do that. I think that what the confusion with the Neshoba Board of Health was, or where we were, is that we feel as though we can sanitize everything on-site. We can fully comply as if we were a commercial kitchen on-site without the need to move the unit on a daily basis. And we're really looking for a waiver from that moving requirement. But at the same time, we're willing to comply with, as if we were, opening a restaurant at the point.
So why don't you look for a permit for full use, as opposed to keeping it as a,
Well, I guess that's why I'm here for
That's what I'm
discussion purpose,
wondering.
because our Neshoba Board of Health was saying, look, the regulations state this, we're not gonna do anything without, advice and consent and recommendations from, Littleton Board of Health. So, our goal really is to open a hot dog stand. That's what we want to do, but we want to have some flexibility as menus expand down the road, and we're willing to do whatever the board seems fit.
Can I ask why it's, if you're opening a hot dog stand and you're not moving, is there a particular reason why it's on wheels?
Well, it was, it's kind of a long story, if you don't mind, I'll tell
No,
you.
that's fine.
It was like my father's 83 years old, and it was his dream to do this, and then AJ and I we do a lot of work together. I own a flooring store over here in Littleton. And, so really, that's how it started. So we wanted to make a self-contained unit. We have dual hot water heaters. We have a hand wash sink. We're all certified. I come from the restaurant business as well, so, you know, my mother was in it. So we want to move it. We do want to have the ability to move the unit.
Right.
At some point.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we don't want it to be,
Yep.
but we didn't want to be required to move it each and every night. We thought that it wasn't advantageous to move it, unhooking all the refrigerators, because we have stainless steel freezers and refrigerators.
So for our purposes, we might do well to think of this as a small fixed building
Yes, that's what.
and make sure you meet the requirements
That
that
would
go
be
with
the
a small
permit.
fixed
The
building.
only thing that
Well,
we would
But they
do
wanna
if we
stay
did that
mobile.
is that. the
Well,
Board of Health-
I'm not saying I mean, obviously, the gray water tank's gonna be a little bit different, because you're not hooked up to sewer or septic,
Yeah.
and obviously, the water's gonna be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But as far as the operation of the restaurant, if we view it as a small fixed building and it meets the requirements, and then we do need to look at the water and the gray water,
And it's not going to meet your requirements relative to if you have a fixed restaurant, you need a bathroom.
Septic
And-
system, yeah.
You know,
but this is a
that-
stand where you go up to the,
Yeah.
what are employees gonna do?
yeah,
There's a temporary facility we're going to have there, but we also have a letter for them to use the next door neighbor's facility.
What's the
what do you
distance to
mean
the
a
next door
temporary, a
neighbor?
porta potty?
What is the next?
Yeah,
one?
we're going to have a porta potty.
What's the
That-
distance to the
that's
next door
for the
neighbor?
Employees.
What's that?
What's the distance to the next door neighbor's bathroom?
It's under 500 feet, I think.
Because
What is the
I think it's the
next door?
plumbing code addresses this.
There's a gym next door, and there's
The Triumph.
the Triumph modular.
So if I remember correctly, I think the
The
plumbing code
address.
addresses sanitary facilities for employees and how far away they can be. That might be something to look into. That would be more of an issue for the plumbing
Well, they
inspector.
have to be on site.
No, not
There are
absolutely.
three
they
things
don't, but-
beside the food and
And they don't.
and
It's
what
actually
you're talking about on
3
your
distance
menu?
the plumbing code
Yeah.
allows.
the three big
Oh,
things
okay,
that stand
okay.
out
But
to
as
me
far as the
are,
restaurant code.
excuse me,
Sorry.
you know, I haven't said anything for 15 minutes. The three things that bother me are the sanitary conditions. There's not going to be any facilities, fixed facilities for the help.
Yeah.
The holding tank is only 250 gallons. At the very least, I think you should have a tight tank. And the third thing is the water going to it through a garden hose?
No, that's not, no. We had two options. We have the water trucked in, like for the hand sink is a separate water, it's a filtration system and a water bottle under the hand sink. We have it's in the book, we rent it.
Okay, I guess my question would be, if you plan on expanding the menu and, you know, expanding it beyond just hot dogs, wouldn't, it- to your advantage to put in a tight tank so that you wouldn't have to redo everything that you're having approved on a very minimal basis? I mean,
Well, it-
if it was me, I'd want to have the water coming in underground,
Yeah.
have a holding tank that could conceivably become the septic tank for a small septic system if you chose to do that down the road. I just hate to see this being done in such a micro, mini scale and then have to come back and have to come back and have to,
Okay, as a,
You know what I mean?
as a preliminary matter from our standpoint, in a permitting world, is that we feel as though we got a considerable amount of initial push. But we got an open from the building department, come, would love to have you do it.
That was when it was mobile.
It was mobile.
I-
That's why I still want to stay mobile. I don't want to hook up.
I understand that, I understand that, so I'm not being critical.
When you add on tight tanks, whether they be tight tanks or holding tanks, that takes away from the mobile element of it, so.
Okay, and then what happened is the Shelburne Board of Health said, I don't think this is ever gonna happen. So we said, okay, well, fine, we gotta figure out how we can keep this mobile and keep this thing going, see if we can open up, see how we're gonna do. We do believe that there's, a strong traffic flow through there. I think it'll be very successful, but we wanted to start slow and then.
Yeah, that's why we were doing it.
So I think you've heard Bill's concerns about, he would prefer a larger tight tank than,
well, the tank that they're proposing is incorporated into the trailer, right?
Correct, we mount it.
Everything's, so it's mobile, so we can disconnect and we can
Hook up and,
move somewhere else.
our electrical
Well, you can
is,
basically still do that with a tight tank, just like
Yeah.
a camper at a campground.
Yeah.
Um,
so Bill, did you have concerns about the water as well? I mean,
Well, yeah, the water, I mean, you said that that's not going to happen. It said it was going to be brought to the unit by a hose.
No, we're gonna have a,
It's Poland Spring 5-gallon jugs that on the hand wash sink, it's a self-contained unit. The 5-gallon jug is underneath the sink. There's a pump on it. It has
And
its
a hot
own,
water
it
heater.
has its own hot water heater, so you can sanitize your hands, as well as the 3-bay sink has its own water supply, water storage tank that gets pumped into the 3-bay sink that gets preheated, and all the water goes into the gray water tank.
and where's that water pumped in from? The nearby water supply?
No,
Nearby-
no, there's a self-storage tank in the unit.
trucked in.
No,
So-
but how do you get it into the unit?
Same thing, with Poland Springs 5-gallon bottles, or we can have it trucked in.
So you're gonna be
from-
sanitizing all this equipment with 5-gallon bottles of Poland Springs?
Or have a water service come in weekly, yes. Yeah,
Now,
that's
why,
it.
I'll go back to my original question.
Because we want to stay
There's
mobile.
town water
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, because once we do that, then we're considered permanent. You know, we want to stay mobile, you know. We can hook up to town water as long as we have a quick disconnect and a quickness for the power, because we also want to stay mobile and leave and come back as well.
So I do have some concerns with 5-gallon bottles
I know,
of Poland Spring being used to sanitize this.
How hot does your sanitizing system get at this point? What's the degree Fahrenheit that you get your sanitizing water up to?
We actually haven't had that hooked up yet to test it, because we haven't had the
There are,
opportunity.
I believe there are requirements in the
What
sanitary code.
temperature are
requirements
you
for that.
anticipating to heat it to?
The
What's your
required
goal?
temperature.
Right.
What?
So there are
Required
requirements,
temperature.
basically, anything we approve, you would be required to show.
Right, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
show, but-
yeah.
Yeah, we have to have an inspection.
So I
go through the whole
would
process.
have-
Possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, we do
Absolutely.
know it's possible,
Yeah.
because what we do.
Have you done
what
it
we-
before?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so you
So-
We've done the-
regularly.
we've done the
I'm sure they have mobile
Citizens
water
Bank.
heaters that can get it to the
Done
right
the,
temperature. They're
absolutely.
gonna need to demonstrate to us that they do need it.
Absolutely,
and
there's
they're
a
gonna
whole
show-
inspection and all that.
So the water, I have to say, 5-gallon bottles of water to sanitize this, what I don't want to see is a scenario we have workers trying to conserve water versus making sure everything's clean.
Yeah.
So I personally would be pretty uncomfortable with 5 gallons of water. Now, if you had a quick disconnect in town water, that I'm more open to.
Well, we
But
can
we
do
don't
that.
want to
Yeah,
see
We
people.
can do that, but then
we
I don't want
wanna
to be
see
sitting
people-
mobile, stationary at that point.
As long as
So
we can
wanna
have a quick
stay-
disconnect,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm fine with the quick disconnect. I don't know what the requirements are, backflow and all that kind of stuff, but you'd have to
We can
comply
do
with those.
Yes.
But I don't want to see, I wouldn't want to see workers in the truck trying to conserve water
No.
at the expense of making sure that things are properly cleaned.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if you had 5 gallons of water, that you're potentially setting up that dynamic. Back to the sanitary facilities, you need to check the plumbing code. And there's some pretty specific requirements, I believe, for sanitary facilities for workers, including, I think, a distance if it's in another building. I've dealt with a little bit around stables, and when I went to the Plumbing and Gas Fitters Board, they basically threw out 300 feet, but that needs to be there. There's also requirements about things like men's and women's that come up, and I don't know how much that applies to workers, but who's our plumbing inspector in town?
Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, you may want to check with him, and it may require a variance where you go before the Plumbing and Gas Fitters Board in Boston. Been down this road, it's not pleasant, but, you know, if you've got people who are basically handling food, we need to make sure they've got adequate sanitary facilities. And you may be able to do that, you may be able to convince the plumbing inspector you've got that, you may be able to convince Plumbing and Gas Fitters Board, but we're gonna need some assurance. Because that's a real issue when you're handling food, obviously.
Do you know if there's an existing, any kind of, well, I know there is, because there used to be a motel there.
And a ice cream
Ice
stand.
creams.
Correct. So, do you know what's underground there now?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah. We can hook up, we definitely.
I was
can
gonna
hook
say, if there's an existing septic tank there that could be inspected,
up. Yeah, but we didn't want to,
And
you know,
used
we're
as a
renting the
tight
property,
tank.
we've been renting it for
Right,
a
we
year
want
now.
to stay mobile, and if we, you know, we're on a lease.
And we don't know if it's Title V, or, I mean, we didn't really want to get into all that, to be honest with you.
But I think what Bill's
but if
getting
you want
at,
to expand, you're gonna eventually have to do it anyway.
Well,
I mean, it might be
down the
something
road, we
worth
wouldn't
looking
mind
at.
expanding, but we didn't, I mean, if this doesn't work out, you know, it's a hot dog stand. So far, it's not working out well.
but I think one of our
As far
concerns
as,
is,
you know, the planning and everything goes.
Yeah.
with both the water and the gray water storage, we don't want to set up a dynamic where people in there are avoiding using water.
No, we won't. We actually
250
have,
gallons isn't much. for the rest.
right, but we also have a contract, and we've had a contract for a year now with a company that comes in and not only pumps the tank, refills the water, and sanitizes the unit each and every night.
Right. So they're going to pump it out every night? And do you have any idea what your flow will be, how much you're going to put into that tank every day?
No. We couldn't set it up. I mean, we brought it
Right.
over there, but then was asked to take it out.
So you don't really even know if 5 gallons is going to properly
No, the 5 gallons, I think, is going to be off the
It's
table.
only 5 gallons on the hand wash sink.
Right.
There's another storage tank of 50 to 60 gallons that will supply the 3-bay sink.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That-
So they won't be
that's what's
they
not
won't be
clear.
taking 5-gallon
Yes,
buckets.
thank
And
you.
then
Yeah.
as usage, we get it filled up as needed. So we don't know that volume yet because we haven't actually been in
So-
service yet.
Okay.
Personally, the storage, I'm more open discussion on. The source, I don't mind a quick connect, but I'd be pretty uncomfortable if we're dealing off of 5-gallon bottles of water.
Yeah. Well, the hand sink on a 5-gallon bottle of water should be fine, because it's not, you don't have one 5-gallon bottle of water there either. You gotta understand, we'd have 4 or 5 of them there.
We can discuss this, but you're going to need a steady supply of water for sanitizing dishes and things like that.
Which is
Well,
great.
they said they have how many, 20 gallon?
60.
60
Yeah.
gallon for the dishes. I feel more comfortable with that.
Yes.
Sixty-
It's separate from the.
60 up to
Hand
2,
one is-
isn't it up to 250?
I'm not comfortable with
Yes.
the storage tank for sanitizing. I don't think that, the code doesn't allow that.
Well, yeah, that piece, yes.
But but
volume-
we're offering a waiver.
volume.
We need a steady supply of water. I don't want to see water conservation when it comes to sanitizing
Yes.
facilities.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
contained, it's not in a container, you peel the top off, you turn it over, and, I mean, that,
You know, and I know you have somebody who
That
comes
whole
in, but there's
concept.
weather, there's, people get sick. You couldn't make it last time because
I
your
mean,
dad.
it's already done in town. What's the other facility doing?
Well, and that's all we have to go by. I mean, we researched that,
There's
and
another
that's,
facility
Yeah,
that's
what
doing
is
the
the,
same.
what
That's
is
a
the other hot
camper
dog
tank.
stand do?
Yeah.
you know, that's
He
one
hooks-
was
That I don't
real.
know.
He's at Gary's. Do we know that?
I don't know what they use for.
No, we do want to be
source.
consistent. I would agree with that.
Gary's
but-
has because it's in the public record, Gary's water source is a hose.
A green garden hose.
Um,
And the
Gary,
storage.
the farm stand?
No, Gary has the
Well,
hot
it's
dog stand in
Wings.
his parking lot at the farm stand.
Yeah, and the storage tank
Okay.
that drains out is into a camper storage tank, which is 20 gallons, 15 gallons. Because I have pictures of it.
Can we check with Jim? Because I do think we need to be consistent. I'm not comfortable with that, but if we could allow other people to do it. But even with a green, I'd prefer even a green garden hose to a
Yeah.
60-gallon tank that somebody may or may not fill up.
We have one.
And we-
Quick connect, I don't care how you connect it. as
Public
long
water
as
is not an issue. You know,
Right.
it's just a matter of going through the proper changes
Yep.
to do that, and we're happy to do that as well.
So when we did, just so you know, that we did work on a project together, and it was a bank in downtown Waltham, and they have no water, and they opened a bank, and we did it with tanks and pump-up systems. What's it called? I forget the name.
The
of it.
same, NES, same thing.
Yeah.
So they had the
How many
storage.
frying pans and food service utensils did the bank?
It was just,
have?
it's
It's
just
not-
for public
they have a lot of
restrooms. Public
employees.
restrooms, yeah, it's a little different, but
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
But they have a lot of employees too, they have to
Right.
sanitize, you know.
Yeah,
And they have
but
flushing toilets.
It's different when you're dealing with food. And I think there's even in the plumbing code something about how long you're supposed to be using porta potties for and that sort of thing. There is a limit.
Yeah, that's a transient source, and
Yep.
that's not allowable. in
So the neighbors, if it's kosher with the plumbing code and those guys, I'd be willing to I'd be willing to open it. There's typically a distance.
Yes,
You know,
So currently, do you have a plan to clean out this 60-gallon vessel that you use to store water for your sanitation process?
Yes, we have service.
I know that, but do they go in and do they replace it? Do they go in and scrub it? What do they do? How do they clean that tank?
I don't know if they'll get that information, get back.
They don't just
Yeah.
refill it, I hope not.
No, I think they
it's-
swapped them out.
You think?
That's been
Okay, well,
mine.
that's something you should know,
Okay.
because that's something.
well,
we're
I'll tell you straight
concerned
out, for me,
Well, this is,
No.
you're gonna need to hook up to the water.
yeah.
So,
which
it's a
we
non-issue. We're gonna
totally
hook up to
can.
the water.
Yeah.
And I don't care
Yeah,
about the quick connect.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
actually
okay.
better.
Okay.
Hook up to the water.
We prefer that as well.
We do.
But I don't want to get into the permanent structure because then it comes into a whole nother.
I know, I have friends with campers, they go and they hook up to water and electricity, and I'm cool with that. There may be backflow devices you have to put on there, but that's the water department.
Sorry, you may have to put some money into getting a station that you can plug into, connect to for water. Just
I'm assuming you're doing the same with electricity, there's basic utilities. you're gonna use.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So you're fine with that, we're fine with that,
I'm fine with
we've
that.
addressed the water thing.
But that would require a variance, so. No, yes?
All of
but
this
no.
would require a variance.
No, I mean,
No.
just a quick connect water, so it could still be
I don't believe
mobile.
that's not
No?
us, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
You
I think
probably
quick
have to
connect-
have a backflow
I mean,
preventer.
I assume there's a backflow prevention
That
device
helps
that they're going to
them get
require.
rid of
That's,
it.
Yeah, I
they're
just wanna
relatively
make sure.
cheap.
Yeah,
Yes,
because it's
yeah.
a very circular discussion. I have a question. Ann mentioned it just briefly. I don't know the rules about, so about mobile restaurants or mobile food carts, but about restaurants or facilities for customers. Is there a requirement or a need for any of that? Or because it's mobile, it's not?
I think it has to do with
That's right,
the,
because it's
Yeah,
mobile,
no
they
seating.
don't.
it's the seating that triggers it.
seating,
And you
that's right.
typically have to have
But-
so
but
many,
Mobile does not.
Okay.
so many toilets and sinks per the number of customers. So is this,
What you
is,
have to have
there's
is
no
the
seating
Yes,
here.
yeah,
They
the
don't
workers,
have,
I
but the
get it.
workers need something. I assume it would be one would be fine. But I'm fairly sure, I think the plumbing code outlines that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a certain amount of distance.
Yeah,
300 does ring a bell.
I think it was 300.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
you know. And
That's the great thing about being mobile, we can move
Yeah, you can.
200 feet.
With a sign, yeah.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Sorry, everyone hang on.
So I think what we need to do
Applaud
is,
your creativity.
Oh, thank you.
um,
It's been fun.
I think probably what we need to do is we need to review this, probably talk to Jim about it, get a copy to him. And does that make sense?
Jim and Bridget have seen it.
Okay. This,
They
'cause-
looked at this?
Yes.
He hasn't, look, well,
Well, they haven't been in it.
they haven't been in it. They
Yeah.
haven't seen
Yeah.
what we presented. They haven't discussed saying, okay, we're going to need a permanent water hookup, which we can accomplish, and we can explore Ms. Laurie's concerns of saying that, let's hook this up as set this up as if it was a permanent restaurant and have full food compliance.
We looked at.
And that's what we've wanted to
Set it up
do.
and
But
take a look
we've,
at it, yeah.
but Shelby Board of Health said, look, if it's gonna stay there and you're gonna have permanent connections, you need a bathroom facility. So we went from saying, okay, we're gonna have this nice, fun hot dog stand to, we need to build a bathroom, and we don't want it.
and was there concern the workers or the the
No,
the
it's just
customers?
the regulations state that if you're gonna have something that's permanent, you need a bathroom.
Yeah.
All right.
And it didn't go beyond food
So
safety.
long as you meet the plumbing code and it's relatively accessible to the workers, I think we can consider that.
Mhm.
You know, but again, look at the plumbing code, it may be a variance you need from the Plumbing and Gas Fitters Board.
Yeah.
Been here before those guys before? They're not fun.
And I think I would like to know the distance to the bathroom.
Yep,
for
that's fine.
workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
And
make
what
that.
the hours are, and what your hours are compared to those hours.
Sure,
And is it
absolutely.
available when you are working there?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are you
That's what
cooking
it
with electricity or gas?
Electricity, yes, sir.
So, and
I didn't
my
know
understanding
if-
is, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I didn't know if the fire department would be concerned about a hood,
I've already talked to him.
makeup air or anything like that.
Only if it's gas, but we put a hood in.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it applied.
Yeah,
to
we put a
it.
hood in anyways, just to
Section
err on the caution side, so we put a stainless steel hood in.
Yeah.
To there, and then it switches to temporary, which is like.
So, and for now, you're dropping the soups and the chilies and that, you're just focused on hot dogs and we
Yes.
can
But
see about that.
but if what we're able to do is say that we want to be fully operational as far as a restaurant goes, we want to have that options. In preparation for the meeting, we talked about saying that, okay, look, we want to have the option of serving, just because it's a name brand, Legal Seafoods, soup that we can buy in bags, it'll be frozen, we'll take it out that day. If we don't serve it that day, we're gonna throw it out. That's what our food plan shows, and that's what we.
So is that what you're asking for now, or do you plan on coming back for that?
No, we're gonna come back.
Come back.
Okay, I mean, I think where you're throwing it away, you're bringing it in prepackaged, there's some potential there. I think the other part along this is, and Neshoba, you probably already know this better than I do, they do test refrigerators and freezers and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, because you will be storing, I assume, hot dogs and buns and things there overnight.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. Your soups, is it individual serve or is it gonna be bulk serve?
That's gonna be.
That's the
bulk.
legal seafood stuff,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
bulk
gonna be
bags.
bulk,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so that's part is very different from the mobile food service
Yeah.
for what you're looking for, because that would only be allowed in a restaurant because of the kind.
I guess what I would like to do
So
is,
if you could,
probably ideally what I would like to do is, we can contact the plumbing inspector in town. I'd like to set this down for a discussion for your next meeting hopefully, or the meeting after that, if you meet every 2
I think
weeks.
probably the meeting after that, simply because of the holidays, and
Yeah,
Jim needs
that's
time to look
fine.
at this. yeah.
And then get, a re-inspection through Jim or somebody, or have a site visit from the board or something like that.
What I was going to just make a point of was, if you consider doing individual soup stuff, if that's possible, just consider that. That would make it easier, that would be more compliant with the mobile.
Well, it does say bulk food shall not be used unless purchased from an approved source.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna
if
do
it
is,
ca- if it's
And you're
from
not storing it
But-
overnight.
Yeah, and then anything that's unused must be sold or served on the day of
but it's-
purchase.
But it's not this potentially harmful food, where the soup that from Legal Seafood is. It's got cream in it, right? You're thinking about clam chowder? That's the difference.
Is the clam chowder is pretty up there on the potentially
Yeah,
hazardous food thing.
it is. So that's why I'm saying.
You're talking chicken soup,
I
it's another
think-
matter.
I think it would be easier if it was individual packaged stuff, as opposed to the bulk that you've got to keep at a certain temperature in your truck, because is not part of mobile.
Certainly, individual package would exempt you. If you want to come back with something, be aware, particularly for things with cream in it, with milk products.
Okay.
It's got a pretty high threshold.
Milk or eggs,
Okay.
anything like that.
yeah.
Not saying no, but it's a high threshold for that.
Okay, so couldn't we set for the January meeting?
Second meeting in January?
The meetings are the 12th and the 26th.
12th should give Jim time to get out there. I'm just thinking with the holidays, and I don't,
Where's it gonna get out to?
does he need to see, well, he needs to review this. He may want to see your facility.
Okay.
And that'll give us time to review. this
And
as well.
then they'll talk about a temporary connect with the water department and
Yep.
see where we go
And
from.
you'll check with the plumbing code on what that says
Yep.
about restrooms for the workers.
So now, we can't get not a variance, but we can't get permission to set this up so that they can inspect it, can we? In
I
other
don't
words,
think
if you
need
go look
that.
at
I
it
mean,
in a
you can-
parking
you can
lot.
park-
Well, I mean, do you really want to set this up for us to say no? And I think we'll deal with
We've
the
done that
abstract for a little
before,
bit.
That's what happened before. We really upset
Yeah.
the show, but without trying to.
Yeah.
We succeeded in upsetting them without trying to. So we,
Well, I'm thinking more for you. I mean, we could say, yeah, go set it up, put in the temporary, and then, 3 of the 5 have decided we don't like it. You just went through a lot of unnecessary cost and expense.
Yeah.
So I think we can envision with
Well,
a temporary
Well, I mean,
facility.
at this point, it's
Okay.
minimal.
Well, for instance,
do that,
yeah, I think if you come back to us and say, look, we've got the water under there, we talked to the water department, they want to back the phase 3 backflow, however they rate those things, that we can deal with the abstract.
So we'll have to do that first, because they don't want to see that in place before the plumbing inspector can look to see that. So,
Okay. So sometime in the 12th?
Yes, I'll send you the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You remember me? Good, how are you?
You want this?
Yeah, I know where it is. Thanks. You can leave it too. I mean, thank you.
Have a good evening.
There's a barbecue place on the other side in there for a while. It lasted about 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, they did very well, though. They still talk about it.
Yeah. Why'd that go up?
I don't know.
But the reason why.
Anyway,
Kind of a fun thing, so.
all right. We'll try to work with you. I can't guarantee, but we'll try.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so
Yeah, but
much.
that's not what they're asking.
No, I know that.
They're asking for soups, and they don't need a variance for this if they can show that it's an approved source. They are serving it on the
Yeah.
day they purchased it, and it's being discarded or sold by the end of the day.
And the only thing I'm saying is let's.
Yeah, but they're not asking about frozen desserts.
No, hang on, let's back up. What do frozen desserts have in it that are potentially harmful? It's the cream and the eggs and all that stuff.
Can I say, I'll be the tiebreaker
and-
since I do a lot of
No,
eggs.
he's right, but I'm just saying my concern is, in bulk, it's much easier.
Do the regs allow for them to take in even cream-based stuff as long as they bring it in from a pre-approved sauce and throw it away by the end of the day?
Yes,
They can,
Then we don't have
yes.
anything to say about it.
that's right. I mean, I understand your concern,
Yeah.
but we're
I mean, it's a real
overstepping our
concern, but
bounds.
we
Yeah.
were overstepping, I mean,
Yeah, that's fine, I didn't see
unless we
that.
have our own
Yeah.
specific regulations, we can't add to this. So I think
Yeah.
they're cool, as long as the soup's
Right.
prepackaged from approved sources, I'm assuming legal
Yeah.
seafood is,
Yeah.
and they throw it away by the end of the day, even one with cream or potentially hazardous food, I think is kosher, according to the regs.
Yeah, and
That's
it
what it
does,
says,
it is interesting, it does say it needs to be purchased on the same day.
No, purchase from approved source.
Yeah, and it must be sold or served on the same day as purchased.
As purchased, see.
So they do need to
So-
demonstrate
so-
that.
So
But-
that's
So
really
The
challenging.
bottom line is they can't store this either before or after
Right.
they serve it. I think we can maybe make
How
a,
can they purchase it the same day? So that's, okay.
Well, so everything
all
that
I'm
they're asking
saying-
for, they obviously need to be able
so
to.
say they're gonna open on a weekend. Legal service comes in, they comes in on Saturday morning, they throw it away by Saturday night. They're gonna
Yeah.
have to do that.
Right,
What
right.
they can't do is store bulk packages of
Right, they
this.
can't keep it for a week, they can't keep it for 5 days. And so I'm just saying that the reason why I said that
Yeah.
is because what makes frozen desserts so hazardous? Well, it's the eggs, it's the.
No, we understand that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
certainly the shellfish and legal seafood would do the same. But as long as they bring it in on the same day and throw it away by the end of the day,
And you
that's
know-
allowed.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm
Yeah.
totally fine.
Because
It doesn't matter if you're okay, the regs say we have to be fine.
Well, no, I know that, but like the idea of them keeping.
Okay, Shelley has to go home.
Stuff in the refrigerator.
I've already missed the beginning of an NCIS.
You know,
doesn't
stuff
matter.
in the refrigerator and then bringing it
Yep.
out, bringing it out. I'm
Yep.
like, no, they can't do that.
No, and they know that. They said they'd throw it by the end
And
of
in
the day.
fact, and our
But it has to be
distributors,
purchased
like
the same.
Seagull Eggs or
Okay.
whatever, that are distributors of.
Right. Shelley, can we check and see what we've done with the hot dog stand at Gary's as far as water and gray water?
Yeah, I'll just give you a little history on this. They came in probably 8 months ago wanting to do this mobile thing. And so they applied for a building permit, and we said if it's a mobile facility, there's no building permit required. You just have to deal with the Board of Health. And so they started dealing with the Board of Health, and then it just progressively changed, and then there was a temp electrical service down there, and they're saying, well, why is there an electrical service if it's gonna be mobile? And they just weren't kind of complying with what Jim and Bridget were asking for. And then it just sort of went away for a couple months, and now it's resurfaced. But there was never an okay from the building department. It was you didn't require a permit because it was mobile.
Right.
If they are stationary, it's a whole different story. And there's planning board, and there's building, and there's parking, and there's
Yep.
septic,
And that'll be
and there's
part of
a
this.
lot
It
of
would
other
apply
things.
if they're mobile, right? The building and.
There's no building
Doesn't apply.
permit
The
required.
problem is they want to
if
have
they're
their cake and eat
mobile.
it too, no pun intended, and be both mobile and fixed.
Yes.
And we need
Right,
to
right. I think
basically,
we need to
they're going
decide.
to meet the requirements with any variances that either we or the building department
Mm-hmm.
used to give them, but they're going to need to get approval from the building department, including the plumbing.
Right.
All right? Any other business?
Oh, that was
Should we
exciting.
just sign Gino's name?
Yeah,
There we go.
somebody with,
Just sign Gino's name.
I'm Italian, I'll do it.
You're Italian?
Nicoletti. Nicoletti.
Was changed to Mitchell.
My dad came back from World War II, and he lived in this Irish neighborhood, but the only things they hated more than the Italians were the Irish. So he was an Italian with a nickname Mick, so he changed it from Alberto Luigi Nicoletti to Albert Louis Mitchell.
Okay. That's quite a history.
Probably a little dark skinned to be pass off some Irish, but well, that's just from.
You still didn't want to be called a Mick in that
Yeah,
neighborhood,
yeah.
let's say this. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Bill, you look like you're ready.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Brad's job, but I did it.